Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
So happy to be here at Start Well. My name is Nadine. I just covered myself while I said that. My name is Nadine Bhaba. I'm an actor and a writer from Toronto. Born and raised in Toronto, like hardcore Toronto girly. You know, when I think of Toronto, I think of Much Music and like Honest Ed's. I remember going to Sam the Record Man on the last weekend it was open. I think we have so much to offer. I think it has been a vibrant landscape where, you know, Toronto's the most diverse city in the entire world. We have every language represented. I think there's an opportunity to make a million different kinds of shows to service a lot of different kinds of people that represent Canadian voices, because there's so many of us and we look and sound like lots of different things. And we're also a city that I was born here, but we're a city where a lot of people come from away. And I think like there are so many different ways to showcase, you know, the Canadian voice, and Toronto is the perfect hub for that.
My name is Hwang, and I am an actor as well. And I just recently produced something, so I don't know if I...
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's you're a producer then.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, sure.
I love talking to fellow actors and people that have been in the industry for a long time and know what they're talking about too. And most of my friends are actors or sort of an artist in some way. They're, you know, in the influencer scene or music scene and things like that. And my closer friends are from high school who don't really have anything to do with this. But to them, honestly, knowing them, it keeps me grounded. They tell me things straight, the way it is, and what they think it's like for them as an, you know, as someone who isn't in this industry.
I'm Robert Bazzocchi. I'm an actor, writer, and director as well from Toronto.
The question is, why do I write and direct? It's because I act. A lot of the time you're waiting to book something or get an audition, and thankfully I had a really good group of friends that I met on this one project, and I realized that in order to do this professionally, you gotta kind of do your own stuff. So I started writing my own things to act in, and then I started directing those things. So I guess I really started in the acting and then started doing the other two to facilitate that. But I do have like a genuine love separately as well now for those two things, just from having done them over the last few years.
I'm Emily Strangis, and I am an actor and filmmaker myself.
I think it's great to be having these conversations and highlighting the many amazing talent that is here, as well as behind the crew and, you know, behind the cameras. It's exciting to be part of this, to be considered, you know, a rising actor. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and to also meet new people and make new friends or reconnect with old friends. This whole industry is based on collaboration, and coming together with something like this on the topic of a roundtable is really wonderful.
Very nice.
Oh. What questions should we start with?
Do you want to go? Ask
Okay,
yours.
I'll just do one. Okay. What was your biggest struggle when first starting out as an actor, and how did you overcome the hurdles it created?
Anyone want to take it?
I was really young when I started. Yeah. I was like, I started when I was around like 7 or 8 years old, like just taking acting classes. And I grew up in a really small town, so my parents would literally drive me back and forth every weekend. And they tried to put me in theater camp, and that didn't work because I was like, no, it's not. That's not what I want to do. I want to, you know, whatever. And so the biggest hurdle was for me when I started was that there was no access to information. So I used to have to like go to a library or go to a specific Toronto bookstore that like sold books on acting, monologues, you know, try and figure out who were the reputable coaches. So I started from ground zero. I'm not a Nepo baby by any means. And it was like, nowadays, like there's just so much information. Like there's like reputable people that give free advice online, and it's like the do's and don'ts. But it was, I had to, you know, I got burned by agents and scammy headshot photographers and, you know, paying agents. It's like all the things that they say, like, don't do, I did,
Right.
you know, because it was like, there was nowhere else to learn. So, yeah, when I think the biggest hurdle for me when I first started was that it was just, I didn't know where to start. And it was all trial and error. And so, yeah, and now I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, I could never imagine starting there again. And thank God that we have, you know, information now that it, you know, people, hopefully that won't happen to. So, yeah.
Sure.
Robert?
For me, I think one of the things, especially like early on starting out, was that I had this idea that what you rehearse for an audition or a scene needs to be executed exactly as you rehearsed it.
When you book the job?
No, like this is before I could even book a job. This is
Right.
kind of the same thing where like no one in my family knew what acting was. I hadn't taken a class. So when I was like at home practicing for an audition, it's like you like learn these beats.
Right.
And you're like, I need to say this line this way and have this moment here and then try to execute it that way, which is kind of the exact opposite of what you want to be doing in an audition or a scene. But I think that's one thing that freed me up is realizing that if you go into an audition room and you do something different from what you prepared, that's probably actually a good thing because you're just doing whatever the other reader is giving you or you're working off of what you're feeling as opposed to being like, if I didn't do what I prepared, I failed.
Right.
So that was like a little bit of a hurdle. And then when I started taking classes and I realized you're not supposed to do that, that was really like eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if I have as much experience as you guys, but this is pretty recent, and I think I got too attached to some auditions.
Right.
Like it was
I don't
hard.
think that ever
That,
goes
I was gonna say, I don't
away.
think that ever goes away. I think there's
Really?
certain roles where it's like I still think about them. Like I will have
Really?
auditioned for them when I was
Okay.
like 14, and I'll still be like, "Gosh,
Oh, okay, it's just
that
not,
was
not just
so-
me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It means you care.
we
That's a
become
constant
part of our
struggle.
Yeah.
characters." Yeah.
Because I was told like you shouldn't be too like tied to rejection of a previous audition because it'll take away from if let's say you have 3 auditions and there's
Sure.
one that's more important, you'll prioritize that one over the other ones, and I think that was a little tough. But yeah, no, I'm glad I'm glad it's clear for me. But yeah, no, I think I cared too much though because I would just think about it too much and it would distract me like the whole day, and it sucked. But I guess that was a hurdle for me. It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy. When I was 18, I went to theater school. I went to George Brown, and I got cut from the program after first year, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Where's the next like thing that I can do now? So I took a year off, and it made me really, really comfortable with rejection and super comfortable learning that there's a non-linear path to lots of different things that you want in this world. And honestly, I'm so happy that happened because all of my friends are the same friends from that class. I mean, I make new friends along the way, but they're like my group,
Yeah.
my
Right.
people. And yeah, it just made me, like I said, very comfortable with myself getting early rejection because like when you're that malleable in the mind and someone's like, you're not very good, you're like, oh, okay. I get to like take that and either make myself better or I could be all victim-y about it and be like, this school sucks. And I'm not saying the school is perfect, but you know, it's definitely something that has helped me over the years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, going off of what you were saying about finding an audition that you kind of hook yourself into, do you guys find there's like a certain thing you have to do to release from that? If either, say you're on hold for something and you're like, I know this is going to be a big one, or like, I know what this could mean for me. Do you do anything to...
I shred my audition sides.
Oh,
I used
really?
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
all my, I'm talking, I had boxes of
wow.
old audition
Wow.
sides because it became like almost like a ritual of like, you get the audition, you print the sides, you highlight them, and now I find I can't work off of an iPad. Like I find it's really challenging because I'm dyslexic, and so it's like sometimes it's just like I need to
See it on
see
paper.
it on paper and hold it, and it's like just the way I've been doing it that way for so long that it's really hard to unlearn that. It's so bad for the environment, but I used to have boxes of audition sides, and I'd get really kind of, like I'd be so connected to the characters, and then I would kind of be disappointed. And at one point, it was just before I like entered film school, I was like, I think I just need to let all of them go. And so I'll hang on to certain sides if I feel like really drawn to it. And when I know that the time has passed, I shred my sides now. That's like my it's done, So yeah.
As soon as I finish a self-tape or an audition, I just fold it, rip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sooner you let it go, the better your life will be.
That's true.
But it
Yeah.
sucks when they ask for a retake.
Well, because I
You're
have
like, it's coming
I'll-
right back.
I'll like
Yeah.
mark notes on it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if I got a callback or if I, booked it, then I kind of want to know where my head sort of if there was things that kind of
Yeah.
came. And so that's why I keep them. And then when I know I didn't get it, that's when I'm
Right.
like, okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what I definitely throw the sides away almost immediately unless I have an inkling that they like ask for me specifically or whatever, because then you just have like a bit of a leg up knowing that. But beyond that, yeah, I just gotta let that door close. Get on with your day.
Yeah. The new thing for me is archiving the self-tape audition. You
Oh
know,
yeah, that's
email?
that's my immediate
It just gets
thing.
it out of my way, so you're not
Oh,
constantly looking at
yeah.
that email when you come in. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's like the digital version
The
of shredding
digital,
yourself.
yeah.
If I really like a self-tape that I've just done, because you put in an iMovie, whatever, and then it saves to my computer. I have like a little folder of self-tapes that I've liked because they work to see like how you've grown, but also if you do get a call back, you can see what you did.
Cool.
Versus having the physical sides. At least it's just like on my computer somewhere.
Yeah.
That I can like go in and find it.
Well, I think handling the rejection is a big part, to be honest.
Totally.
Like, yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember I did an audition, and they were looking for like a Chinese authentic character, but I was Korean and I couldn't speak Chinese, and then they wanted me to self tape and do it, and they liked me and wanted to use me, but I told them I couldn't speak Chinese, and they couldn't find a Chinese teen for some reason, but I told them, I was like, I'm not authentic for this character.
Right.
I would rather, for the story, you should use someone who is Chinese, because the story is Chinese and it's about a Chinese teen. And yeah, I think that also helps with the rejection as well. It's like what's best for the character and what's best for the film, because if you go into a film as an actor and you don't look as good or don't fit the role, it'll hurt you in the long run, in my opinion. But I think that's what helps me with as well. It's like who's like the best fit,
Well, yeah, that's the power of no on your end. Because
Exactly.
like the rejection, why we feel it, it's because someone said no to you.
Right.
But like when you can say no to a character, like I get breakdowns all the time where I'm like, I don't want. It's not even that
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
It should go to someone who either really wants this part or who's like right for that part. Like, what story am I telling by taking this? And I think as soon as you start saying no to things, the no's coming this way don't feel as weighted.
Can I ask you, how do you determine when you think this is, because clearly your agent and casting have said, Nadine, we think you could tell the story. When do you go, that's not mine to tell, this should be told by somebody else?
Yeah, from like a black and white perspective, a lot of it has to do with race, ethnicity, culture, like that kind of thing. Like this exact situation where it's like, I think we amalgamate race, ethnicity, and culture all together. So it's like, I'll get things where you either have to speak a different language or, my dad was born in Johannesburg, and a lot of people can't understand like how I look the way that I do. You know what I mean? Things like
Right.
that. My mom's Guyanese, so it's like when I get like a deeply like inherently Indian character who like grew up in India and like has all these like his like language and like, highly conservative parents or something like that. It's not that I can't play that.
Right.
I can. It's not my story.
Exactly.
It's not my and sometimes I don't think it's my story to tell. So from a black and white perspective, there's that. But when the character's not laced in all those things and it's just like, if it's just like the character happens to have an Indian name, like I don't mind doing that.
Right.
Beyond that, sometimes you just like look at a character and if it's like a lot of jargon or something, like if you're doing a procedural, medical, lawyer show, whatever, I'm just like, would I be able to do this for 5 years? Like,
Right.
am I able to do this for 5
You
years?
are, but
And like, but it's just sort of like,
Yeah.
do I want to, because like, yeah, I have dreams.
absolutely.
And so I'm like, I'll weigh those things. But yeah, you're right. You've gone through, a couple people have said yes already in order to get an audition.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it falls to you to say yes to if you want to do it.
Yeah.
So to the point of having ambitions, I guess we can spread this around. But like, one thing that I found interesting about the work that you've done is like you've done a lot of comedy, but you're a good dramatic actor. And so like, do you guys ever think about what kind of roles you're taking based on how you might be perceived in the industry?
100%.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of like, almost like reputation as well with the roles you take. I mean, that's why like a lot of comedic actors want to go dramatic and a lot of dramatic actors want to do some stuff like feel good. Like after Rice Boy, I did a few other films that are up and coming, you know, coming of age stories, and they're very sad and dramatic. And like even my dad was like, "You should do a comedy. Why don't you do something where you don't
Everyone thinks
cry?
you're sad.
Like do something where you don't cry at the end." And I was like, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, I would like to have the variety of because it shows the range of what you can do as an actor, right? Yeah. But I feel like sticking to one is always going to be a bit tough because that's the only kind of role you're going to get. And I feel like it's not really fulfilling for a career. Like I would, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Did you have something in mind?
No, not necessarily. Like, because I feel like things have changed. Like, you know, if we go back 50 years, the idea of, you know, even the whole thing of being a TV actor versus a film actor.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because, like, I do sketch comedy
Right.
online, and I always thought, you know, if I put this stuff out there, it's going to devalue any possibility of being like a good dramatic actor or something.
Oh.
And yeah, and I've learned that it doesn't. And I think realizing that you should prepare yourself for both fields.
Right.
Like, you should be able to do a comedy, you should be able to do a drama. Whether you want to do both is up to you. But I don't know, at least at this point in my career, I'm not like sculpting which side I can go into. I'll just be ready for both, and I enjoy both.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you feel about that?
So when I was taking acting classes as a kid, I used to lie about my age to get into better classes.
Classic.
Right.
So there was
To be older or younger?
to be older. Because I didn't look 16 when I was 16. I looked like I was in my 20s, which I never played the high school age. Like I just, you know, I had my fair share of auditioning for those types of shows, but I just never booked it because there was always a level of maturity to me that just because I grew up around adults and I just couldn't really connect with that experience of, you know, being in high school because I was so like career, professional. But then there was this one coach who I started working with, and he's a fantastic actor. And he was like, we're going to just do like lawyer jargon, medical jargon. And he was like, when the time comes, you'll be so ready for it. And he was like, because where else are you going to learn how to do this right now? And he was like, so if you want to do it, let's do it. And so I was like 16, 17 years old in these acting classes, like just doing like random medical jargon that I knew I wasn't like had no, but it was like just to play and just to have fun. And, you know, and to that, it was sort of like, where do I go with this? And I knew I was like kind of banking it for later. And now I feel really confident in those things because I watch them. I feel good about them. I know that if I ever booked one, I wouldn't be intimidated by the jargon because it's just a matter of like getting the vibe of it and convincing people that it's like you can play a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, or a police officer, whatever it might be. And but I think too the range, it's so hard, I think, in Canada because it's like in some ways it's like you just want the work and like just to be like respected as an artist and get to sort of make a living off of working in film and television is such it just seems like such a in some ways like a far-fetched idea. And then it's like when you're doing it, you're like, oh, I don't, you know, so it's like beggars can't be choosers in some ways. And obviously like my agents, like they know how to sort of manage and submit me for certain things. And, you know, but it's, yeah, it's like, I think it's kind of what you were saying, Robert, about just having, like being able to be prepared for when it comes and when it happens, and whether that be sketch comedy or, you know, specific jargon or, you know, drama or indies or whatever it is, you know,
Right.
it's like
The
just
sad boy
like
Ethan stuff
the
that
sad
we
boy
talked
Ethan.
about.
I would love to be sad boy Ethan.
I remember the most recent feature I did was about an adopted Korean teen, and I don't know if you guys have these experiences, but in the script, I had to cry like 6 different times, and it was so mentally draining. And I told the director too. I was like, we're at the 5th one, right? Where my character starts breaking down. I'm like, hey, can we like not maybe cut down on the crying? Because if I keep crying, it's gonna lose the impact. He's like, oh no, don't worry, we'll edit around it. And, like, I don't like it's coming out, I hope, but it's like it's so funny because stuff like that when you start off as an actor is like yeah, like I'll do anything. Like I'll, like
gold
give
mine.
me
You're, like,
everything. Like
crying
I'll do
on
it.
camera.
I'll do all the work. Yeah, like just let me do something. And then when you actually get there, it's like you start to set boundaries that you didn't know were there before.
Right.
And they're a lot shorter than you thought they were. Like like especially with the crying thing, I thought I could do it like whenever. I'm open, flexible, whatever. But around the fourth, fifth point, I was like, I can't do
That
this
is a lot of
anymore.
times.
I
your
also-
defense.
Like it's
Yeah, we underestimate the power of a tear stick.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you just need one and you're emotionally there, but you don't
Yeah.
need to think about your dead parent
I-
in
yeah,
order
like,
to
I
like
don't
you
get
have
really
to
wanna do that,
protect
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You
And-
have to, yeah.
you're still acting.
Yeah.
But to produce like something like a single tear or whatever,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's just nice to have the technical taken out of it. And I love my tear stick.
Yeah.
Like I love it. Like I don't use it all the time, but like I did a horror movie and it's like it's 6 a.m. and it's the first shot of the day and we're screaming and we've been screaming from the camera day from before or whatever, and you're just like, it's gonna be fine.
Exactly.
The audience is gonna have the same experience.
Yeah.
They don't need to know that I'm like actually experiencing something horrific. No one's chasing me with
Yeah.
this axe,
Yeah, sometimes I just use tear sticks on my day off just for fun.
just for fun.
So I get that.
Yeah, just to get empathy from a TTC driver.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But you have to protect yourself as an artist because it's like, if you are like making it so personal within your performance and then it's, you just don't know what the sort of after effects of that might be. You know what I mean? Because then
Yeah.
it's like having those boundaries are so important and knowing that like a tear stick is not like cheating. It's like,
It's not,
are you well hydrated? What are the given circumstances on the day that like are impacting how it is that you're feeling? Can you take that and put it into your work? And if you can't, because you're like, you just have dry eyes, then it's like, that's what it's there for, and it's, you'll hear all the time, like where, like people in makeup, like they'll just come up and be like, I have a tear stick ready for you. And it's like, it's almost like it's so encouraging when they are like, I've got this. So like, don't feel like you can't ask for it. I always appreciate that.
I think that's a big hurdle too in starting out. You're just too nice. You don't want to annoy anyone
Yeah,
or anything, and you're
yeah.
just
Always
you're
afraid of getting fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to ask about the setting boundaries thing because I think that's interesting. And like, at what point do you stand up for yourself as an actor or come in with ideas that you think are strong, whether or not they go with them or not? But how do you know when you think it's worth bringing up to a director or the showrunner? And then if they disagree, when to just trust in their vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fine balance when it comes to having an ego
Yeah.
and being
True.
a curious actor.
Right.
Okay, sometimes you just come in and you have to just do your job as
Totally.
this country, we love it. There's not a lot of time. And I know that happens outside of Canada, but especially here, we're always like, for some reason, in a time crunch. And so there's a moment to bring up, is this what I should be saying? And then you're kind of like, other times you're wasting everybody's time by doing that. And ultimately you're like, what are we all doing here? Everything should make sense to everybody. You should want to be comfortable in every single, minute aspect of this. But other times you have to sort of navigate, like, who should take precedence in this moment. And a lot of the time it's not us.
Yeah.
It's like a lighting thing or there are directorial choices that they can see in a cut that we can't see. That being said, is like, I've had my fair share of jobs where I'm like, I just don't want to say that. I just simply don't want to say that.
Well, at least you can do is mention it and
Totally.
bring it up, and sometimes they might agree, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a character or what inspires you all?
When I prepare for a character, I think the thing that really helps me is I find how I can connect with the character I'm given. If I find any similarities and things like that, qualities and traits, and if I think in my head, like, can I be friends with this person? Obviously, I'm playing like a serial killer or something, like, obviously not. But like, I'm saying,
Well,
like,
you never know, though.
I guess, like,
That's how serial killers get good.
True, I guess so. But it's like I try to find the similarities between me and like them and I, and I think that's what helps the most. It's like, can I understand where this person is coming from, who this person is, and what they're going through, and how I would react if I went through that.
And so I don't really think that truly becoming the character is a good thing either, because I feel like it's always good as an actor to bring your own qualities as your own person into the character to make it authentic, right? To make it you, to make it that so that no one else can play that character other than you, because you are your own person and also the character you're playing. So I think that really helps me with like just relate to the character and stuff like that. And I try not to think about it too much, because then I'll get confused and I start to think too much and I get really insecure on camera too. I start to think, oh, what am I, it's like relating to it is the best part. And I think that's why a lot of stories like with like immigrants and especially specifically Korean immigrants, it's really easy for me to understand who that is, because that was me at one point, and that was my dad at one point. That was, my brother at one point. So it really helps. Yeah.
I think like everyone's always like, what can you bring to the character? And the reason why you've booked a job is because like of you.
Authenticity.
And like for me, it's what in this person that's either someone else has written or I've written myself is actually can live in me. It's like, not that I can't embody a character wholeheartedly, but I would say like Nadine comes first, and then like the character is infused into who I already am. Because like for some reason I've booked this job over another person, and like it's me that is the reason. One can only hope. It's not just like a height thing. Like we just needed someone 5'2.5". But I think that because I've always like struggled with like infusing me into a vessel that already exists, like a woman that someone has written that they all have an idea of. It's more easy for me to figure out how to infuse that into my personality. And so preparing a character is just sort of like, how would I say this?
It also helps like detaching too.
Yeah,
it's like because you understand who is you and who's not you, and it just it gets rid of that too as well.
Yeah, well, also method acting is such BS. It is like, come on, you don't know where you begin and the character ends. That's so silly.
Okay, well now I have an answer based on what you guys were saying.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where I read this quote, but it's playing a character is exploring a character.
Sure.
And I love that because, like I think I used to go into scenes being like, the character wouldn't do this, the character wouldn't do that. And you're adding constraints as opposed to exploring the full depths of what this character could be, right? And I think that's where the director comes in. So I honestly don't even think character in all of its entirety is the actor's responsibility. I feel like you just play out any scene or situation and you can explore it every time, right? Obviously on certain sets, if you're a day player, you go and you do your beats, whatever. But if you have the opportunity to do a bigger role, you can go in there and just explore. And then I think the director will hone you in. And then whether they choose one take over the other, that's defining the character for you.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, different from theater to TV and film.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like preparing for a character, I think even in looking at like the audition process, for me, it starts with wardrobe. And I fell into the costume department, so I work a lot in costumes. So I'm full-time in film and television. And yay degree for film, putting that to good use. But it starts with wardrobe, because it's like, what are the things where my character is like, how do they inform their choices of like what they would look like, or where do they come from that impacts how they might dress, and then therefore how they're perceived and what that interaction might look like. And so for me, it's also interesting, like seeing so many actors that I've worked with on the costume side. It's like having like the opportunity to really further like their choices or different things like that, and that to me is like my easiest way of like, if I don't have a lot of prep time, it's like, what is the baseline of like how I'm gonna get into this character? And I think it's like playing dress up sometimes. But and then if you have the time, then it's like, the process is much different. But I feel like time is such a precious thing, especially in, quick turnaround for tapes and different things like that. And then also sometimes it's like, even if you book a job and it's like, we need you tomorrow, and it's like, you're like,
True.
It's like just that it's like you have to be quick and you have to be ready. And it's like, if so much of it, sometimes it's like, you don't really know what you're who your character
Yeah.
is by the time you get to set. And that sounds crazy, but it happens, I think, more often. And then you put your, you get into your costume and all of a sudden it's like the job is half done for you because it's like you just feel it. And I think that goes for like shows like Murdoch Mysteries, where it's like as soon as the corset for me came on, it was like, oh, I'm in it, or on Pretty Hard Cases playing an officer, it was like I was like, I don't feel like I'm like, how do you play a police officer? And then it was like as soon as it was like the prop belt came on, I was like, whoa, where it was like It just dropped me in, and I was like, okay, now I get it, and now I can play and explore like you were saying. But it's
yeah I get what you mean by the wardrobe thing. For some reason wardrobe has always been tricky for me because I don't know why, but I get hot really easily, so I hate sweating. And a lot of sets they'll make me wear coats, and it's like hot as hell. And like I wore like a blazer in a car, and there's a scene where we were just like smoking, and the smoke was going around. There's like five dudes in a car, and it was the middle of summer in Boston. And I was wearing a blazer, and it was so hot. And I think wardrobe does help, but I like it when it's like when I can just like take it off and just be cool and chill. That's a really technical thing for me, but like I get that too. But no, what you're saying is like I'm sure you guys have had projects where you wait like a month after the audition, you're like, oh, I didn't get it, and then they call you, they're like, oh, we need you like literally in like 3 days.
Yesterday.
Yeah, like you guys have to fly out.
Yeah.
Like that. I feel like that's also something that's like,
it's so true. It's like as artists, like it's on any given day, your whole life can flip and switch at the, on a dime. And it's like, you can't ever really like prepare for that in some ways. And it's almost like you just have to trust that all the training and work that you've done will eventually just take flight, and it like that your instincts will kick in, and that it's like this idea of striving for perfection doesn't really exist, because so much about the process of filmmaking and television is so imperfect, and it's collaborative.
I feel like staying grounded too is like really important, because a lot of to the average person looking at an actor who's like really big, they think they're like almost like the prophet or something, like a god, and I think people fail to realize like all the actors are just regular people.
Just people.
And
yeah.
like, I feel like it's hard for them to stay grounded because other people allow them to be up there, So then, like you said, how getting egotistical really hurts the script sometimes. It's like,
Totally.
I understand that, and it hurts sets too.
Because if
Like,
everyone has an ego,
Yeah.
let's say 100 people are on a set, 100 egos to deal with is going to be freaking
I know.
annoying.
Even just one big ego, and everyone else,
Totally.
like 99 people can be like chill, nice, but nice people in the world. And you have this one guy who has like the biggest ego. Like that just ruins everything, and just like it ruins the relationship of the set. It ruins the scenes too, because like I don't know, you could have just like been really weird to you in the last conversation. Now you're doing a scene where you have to be nice to them. It's like
Right.
I get that too, and I try not to like my dad. He always like taught me to be like grounded and humble about things and not get too big of a head. And I think over time when I was younger, I felt guilty bragging about things. And I'm not saying that's like the best way to teach, but for me anyway, I feel super uncomfortable about bragging and people like giving me compliments. I don't know why, but it's just like I feel like that's helped though, because like I don't want to. That's better than.
It's the better way to swing.
Exactly.
But it is a fine line, because you do have to, if you're not saying you specifically, Ethan, but like if you're not confident in your own work, no one else is going to be confident.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like having just a little bit of delusion
Yeah.
sometimes really helps.
Yeah, true.
Because again, like otherwise who's going to have those dreams for you?
Yeah.
Like, you should want to own property or whatever it is, like make enough money that you can like, whatever it is, travel, pay a mortgage, support a family, like whatever you want to do in this crazy industry, especially in this media landscape right now where it's very difficult to make money, and you have to believe that you will do it.
Yeah.
And you can do it, and that you're important, you're valuable, and your work is important. Everything that we are trying to make here has like greater social value.
Yeah.
I also think too, there's like I think so often, because us as Canadian artists, it's like when we think about like promoting our work, it feels like it's bragging, but it's like because we're already such a small industry, it's so important to get our work seen, not just by networks, but like other up and coming filmmakers. And I think Future Film has an amazing platform and collective that is really pushing that forward. And I think that's so important, because it's like, then I think it takes the pressure off of feeling like we're bragging, being like, I'm an actor. But it's like that process, it's so not what I think the average person might think it is,
No, it's true. I always say, like, take yourself and your work seriously until someone else can do it for you. Like, because, if you're not, like, you might feel like you're a nobody or you don't deserve to be in that position. But like you said, if you don't believe in yourself that you deserve to be there, no one else will. And then eventually you are in that position enough that other people see you there, and you can be humble about it, and you don't need to push yourself as hard.
Yeah.
But, sorry.
I was going to just take the opportunity to brag for Ethan that I loved your performance in Rice Boy Sleeps. I thought I loved it. It was such a beautiful.
Take it.
Thank
Take
you.
it and
You
bring
have
it.
to take it.
Try saying, I know.
That wasn't good. Take 2. Here we go. And
I know.
We'll work on it.
I know.
No, it was
Okay.
very beautiful.
Well, this is,
you.
unless Robert, you wanted to say something?
well, I can ask it after. It's not a big deal.
I was just, no, ask it.
Okay, well, we're talking about like pushing our own work as well, right?
Yeah.
And clearly everyone here has done some form of either writing or producing or directing outside of the acting. How do you guys find balancing the time between like acting and working on that and auditioning and being in class versus allocating time to write, produce, or direct something?
I'll just quickly say, like, my time as a writer is dictated by writers' rooms.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously I choose to enter a writer's room. I mean, not like benevolently, just like I get an offer to be in a writer's room and I go, yes, I would like to do that. And these are the dates. And then usually the hours are dictated and whatever. So then I get to then decide on Sunday, I'm going to continue writing my own thing, but I'm still taping at the same time. Probably much to everybody's chagrin. And, I have been very lucky over the last couple of years to genuinely balance acting and writing as two
That's good.
Amazing.
separate
That's
careers.
Good. That's really good.
But, I mean, you have to make time for both.
Yeah, because I tried writing and I just, like, on my own time, and the procrastination, like, really hits. Like, the creative block and everything, because, like, another thing is, like, you're scared to show your peers about your script, like, oh, you're gonna make fun of me or anything? Like, it's like, I feel like writing is really different from producing and directing. Like, it's literally, the backbone of a film. So, when you direct or you produce, if the director didn't write it, or the producer didn't write it, or the main actor didn't write it, I feel like it's a little different. It feels more like a job you're just doing for the writer, even though it doesn't feel that way, it is what it is. But I feel like writing is really, really where it gets difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying acting, producing, and directing isn't difficult, but it's just like writing is like the one thing where you really have to take the time to do it. And if you are gonna do it and you really want to do it, then you have to do it. It's like a priority almost, and it's really hard.
Yeah, you have to hone the craft the same way you would acting.
And I think that's good that you take the time to actually write. Like, this on Sunday, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write. Whereas, like, if you're just writing on your own time, it's like, maybe I'll eat.
It's like, it's tough. I
I'm always
get
eating.
distracted as hell.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it sucks.
if especially in your own house, you're like, oh, my things are here. I like my things.
My dog's all of a sudden like, oh, you look so cute. And just,
Exactly.
yeah. But I will say to that, I think now that things have gone more digital, I think just like the freeing element of that, when you are feeling creative, like that's when you can do your self-tape. Like, you don't really have to worry about being like randomly free on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. that, like, you know what I mean? And just like those, like, usually there's a bit of like an advance, and I'm really glad that I think the self-tape space, and obviously I speak from the privilege of once having been in the rooms to establish these relationships and connections and then maintain them when I'm at like events or different things like that. And you run into casting and, or directors, and you get to speak to them as like, like colleagues more than anything. But I remember like during the pandemic, I was working on a couple of union shows. And so my days were like 18-hour days. And I was like truck supervising. And, it was like the most insane time. But then I was so grateful because it gave me a sense of security, which I didn't have at that point. And then being able to just go home. Luckily, my mom is my self-tape reader.
Nice.
And that was so helpful because she'd be like, you got to do your tape now. And then like, it'd be all set up. I would get home, quickly change or whatever, and then just like do the tape. And having that was like so luxurious. And I was like, there was a part of me that I was like, I can't ever go back to this because now it's like, I have a life and I can, I'm really, on it with my schedule and designating those times. But it's like that little voice being like, I don't know if I can do this because I might have an audition that I have to go to. And now that's like, that has just freed up so much that, because that was a big shift.
But for all of you guys, like, did you guys prefer the in-person auditions or the self-tapes?
I love an in-person audition.
I'm a self-taper. I like, because those waiting rooms, and I think this extends from being bullied as a kid, I just couldn't handle the waiting room. That element of like competition, and it was like weird because it was like, I thought we were friends, and it's like, and then people are trying to mess with your head. I mean, it's so weird, but it's like, it's so true because like, it just, I lost that spark in the waiting room. And I think that self-tapes are a bit more of a reflection of working on set where you might have an instinct and you want to just try it out yourself. And then there's no risk of like, it's like this idea of like perfectionism of like, I have to play it out. Like,
I'd actually I disagree with the aspect of self-tapes reflecting being on set more.
I find it the opposite.
Because, and I remember talking about this, I think it was like a workshop or something, and John Buchan was there, and I was asking him, or no, maybe it was Jason Knight, and I was asking him like, don't you find one thing that I miss about having done the in-person is you're given a time and a place to show up and perform.
Yeah.
And I love self-taping, but there's something about being able to go into a room and having to deal with whatever shit you have going on that day, whether it be 9 a.m. or like 6:30 p.m., you got to show up and do the scene.
And someone can redirect you.
Yeah.
I miss that.
And you see their face, you can like speak to them.
And there's chemistry, like even between you and like the camera person, even like it's just like energy in a room. Like I don't mind a self-tape when, you have like 5 in a week or something, but there's an element missing that I think is being reflected on TV.
I think the callbacks for me is that. And the initial audition process, it's like, I'm just glad, I guess, the initial is a self-tape. And if it's like to feel that chemistry and whatnot on a callback or when you're in genuine consideration for something, I think that element that I'm like, yes, in room to whatever, that is. But it's like that initial of like having to be randomly free when it's like, like just, living in an economy. It's like, it sounds so bad, but it's like, it's like to have that flexibility is such a luxury. And I'm grateful that like, the career that I'm still building, but like, that I've allotted that and I've given it the space, but it's like, not everybody has that. And it's, if you're coming from a corporate job or something like that, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Everyone comes from all different walks of life, which is amazing, but it's also like, there's boundaries.
Yeah. Sure. I think accessibility wise, we all know why it's necessary, but I think from like an actual performance and like the feeling of it, and like the high of going somewhere. Like I can't stand just being in my apartment afterwards.
What was really underrated is when the audition went well,
and you leave the audition room with like the biggest
Oh
smile.
man.
you're like,
Everyone's like,
dun, dun, dun,
like,
dun,
did
dun,
you
dun,
get
dun,
it? Like,
yeah,
oh
like,
no.
by
Don't even
yourself.
bother going in. I booked it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you
yeah.
don't get a call.
And that's why I hate the waiting room.
That's true. That's fair.
That's so funny. I had the opposite experience in waiting rooms. I just love seeing all my friends being like, hey, like you're all there just to, because if it doesn't go to me, it'll go to you.
Yeah.
Like so fun, and like the community of it. Like obviously there are many different aspects
Totally.
to a waiting room, but I just half the reason I'm into this industry is for people. I just
Oh my
like
gosh,
love. I loved packed casting rooms. I love going to like a studio or I don't know, like an event, and there's so many people there, and I feel like it's become, for an industry that is people based, it's become very isolating.
Yeah.
That is.
It's funny because Jason Knight did cast me in a lot of stuff in the beginning of my career, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then I did a few like self-tape auditions for him, and then one of the directors was like, "Oh, I don't think you remembered who I was because I grew up so much."
Oh.
So I think I heard him mention like, "Oh, like how come I don't see him as often?" I'm like, "You've been seeing me like for like 6 years."
That's
like,
so funny.
It's just so funny. But I think that's the thing about like going in person. Like I could
Yeah.
really like actually create a bond with like
Totally.
the casting, and I think it's also important for casting directors to like really be clear to the actor why they didn't get the role.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like your age, you didn't look the age, or you weren't the fit, the look and stuff like that. And I've had a few times when some casting directors just like oh no, we went for it, like didn't really explain to me, and I feel like that wasn't like the closure that I really want. Like I think as an actor you want the closure, and you want the advice. Yeah, you want the advice to like know what to do next for the next next tape you do and stuff like that.
Right.
I think that's for actors that's like starting out. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the last question. I
Cool.
think that'll be good. What is your definition of success as an actor?
I feel like on paper it'd be just filming a lot,
Like always working.
always working. I think that's. But I also think it's doing the projects you want to do.
Versus like need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's also success. It's like what's the most fulfilling.
See, I feel like, and I'm curious if you guys disagree with this, because there's going to be backlash, but I feel like, I'm going to get attacked here. No, like, I think shifting the perspective from acting being a job that you have to being this vocation that you pursue, and accepting that. Because this isn't, I mean, this goes with any artist profession, but like, it's not a meritocracy. It doesn't matter how good you are, how hard you work, you might not be cast in someone else's thing. You can work on your own shit, but even then, someone else is gonna have to say yes, right? So it comes down to like, at some point, you're gonna have to have someone else look at you and for external factors want you in something. And then hopefully that vocation can turn into a job. But I feel like so many people, and I did this too, I was like, if I don't book something by this point of this value, or if I don't make this much money by this year, I'm a failure and I'm gonna stop.
Right.
But I know so many like fucking such good actors that have been doing it for so long, and now they're just finally like reaping the rewards of it. And I think it's because they've been seeing themselves as successful for being in class and working on the craft and just pursuing it confidently, as opposed to seeing, I haven't been on a real set in like 3 years, so I'm not a successful actor. And again, it's annoying because it's a job and you should make fucking money, but that's not the reality. So that's what I think success is. If you can confidently pursue it and do that happily, even if you need a side gig or like an office job, you're a successful actor.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I'm not getting beat up, thank God.
No, I agree with it. It's like it's because it's hard, It's like as long as it makes you happy, and you know that you feel like you're pursuing your purpose in life. Yeah, I think that's.
I think happiness is like how I have always measured success. My parents always used to say to both my sister and I growing up, they'd be like, whatever you choose to do in life, you should wake up and you should be happy about it. And if you're not, you have to readjust. And I think that's been like the biggest thing is like I found my passion. I found what like, I mean, again, this industry has crazy hours. I've worked them, and it's like you have to love it. There's so much rejection, and if you don't love it, if you're not happy in it, you're not going to be successful at it, because how can you have that longevity to keep going? So I think success is measured by happiness. And then to that, I would say if I can, you know, I mean, I have 2 dogs, so I'm like, if I can care for them and, you know, pay, like, if I can provide for like my right now, I'm like, they're my dogs, but they're really like my babies, and I'm like, I want to be able to, you know, give them an amazing life. And then likewise, I'm like, I want to be able to like care for myself and my family, and it's like put all those things first. And I'm like, if I can do that in whatever capacity, I think as an actor, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think that's why I've kept at it for so long, is because it's like what you can feel in a class is so like, you're like, yeah, I'm acting. It's almost like there's like that, like the Buddhist sand drawing where, and then do anyone know?
I'm not familiar.
It's like where they'll like draw something in the sand and then they just like wipe it away once the picture's complete. I'm blanking on the name of it.
To like
But I
get
thought,
rid of the attachment, right?
yeah,
Something
and
like
I thought, and that's like such a great representation of like acting classes and whatever, because it feels so good while you're doing it. You get to see the finished thing, and then it just goes away, because it's like, especially off-camera acting classes, I love those. Those are my, yeah. Anyways, I don't know if that was a
No,
good,
that's
That
great.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like getting rid of the longing. This image that I always like to go back to, that I invented. Just kidding. I mean, I think I did, but whatever. Is like picking a flower off the ground and like it's still in the ground. Like you're not taking it out. You're just like smelling it and appreciating something that you've grown, while having another hand attached to like a helium balloon that's like floating, and these are your ambitions, and keeping that stretch.
Yeah.
Because like you have to be able to just be settled. Nothing is worse than someone who's constantly coveting. It's annoying to be around.
I'm sorry about that, by the way.
That's you. No, I mean, like everyone has to come to that. Like I'm a deeply ambitious person, but I'm also, if I died tomorrow, I'd be like, I did it. Like I nailed it. Like, you know, it's okay to want, but you also have to like just be completely settled to stop being annoying to yourself and to those around you. And I think it boils down to happiness, boils down to not chasing this unattainable dream. It's that staircase metaphor that's always going up and up.
Yeah.
You know, it's everything we've all just said that makes the patchwork of success, I think.
Yeah.
What a wonderful conversation we've all just had, and we've just run out of time.
Really quick though, who is everyone's favorite actors? I feel like
I think that's gonna take a long. Do you guys have a
just like name your a few of your inspos.
Okay, I'll say I Robin Williams is a really big one for me, because I love that goes back to the comedy drama conversation, but like the fact that you can be like world famous as a comedian and then still have Oscar nominated or winning performances in these really dramatic, beautiful films. I mean, that's the goal.
Nice.
I really like Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I like his personality too. I think he's great. But I just like him. All his films, like it's just like, you also know all the like the crazy like setup he did for the character. I think that's really cool. Like it's not. Also, he doesn't really. Does he do method acting like that? I don't know.
I mean, who knows?
He method acts the accent, but I heard in interviews like he doesn't really do that.
Unprecious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So that's why I like him. He's like, yeah, I like him. I like seeing him on the screen.
Nice. Your question.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think I have a definitive answer.
All right.
It's you.
Yeah, that's me from yesterday.
I love Annette Bening. I love Annette Bening in like every single thing she's ever done. And then probably Greta Gerwig, because just I used to watch all of her like mumblecore videos, and just like her transition from improv to acting to, you know, filmmaking. It's just very inspiring. But yeah, but Annette Bening is like, I love her so much.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like the cohort of like Kristen Wiig, Amy Poehler,
Yeah.
Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, and Mindy Kaling. Those women.
Yeah.
This has been a lovely conversation.
Yes, for sure.
Right here at Startwell.
Thank you, Startwell.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
for having
guys.
us. Thanks,
Thank you.
Future Film.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers.
everybody.
Cheers.
Cool.
There's no water in mine. I drank it all.